Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using code CHAMPION and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matter more than ever. Sign up today and find out why nothing beats a win at the King of Sportsbooks. Download the BetMGM app or go to BetMGM.com and enter code CHAMPION and place your first wager risk-free up to $1,000. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Virginia only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-888-532-3500.
Hello everyone, how are you doing tonight? Welcome to the Direct-to-Video Connoisseur Podcast. I'm joined as always by Jamie Jenkins. Jamie, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to have a good movie to talk about.
We have a real good one here tonight, so I agree. I watched this one and felt like... I'm trying to think. A couple weeks ago we did The Frozen Ground. We liked that one too, but I think this is more of a...
This is action-y.
Yes, it's very good. Yes, Brian is saying yay, so we got this. Now, I don't really have much as far as administrative stuff to go here. I do want to do a quick shout out to Jen because she is feeling better. She's on the mend.
Yay.
So that's good news for us here. The other significant other who is listening in the audience tonight that we have. Now, I wanted to point out too, on Facebook I noticed that you have a Liken It podcast.
I do. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm very excited. It's episode 5. It's called Les Éléphants Roulés.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, even though that's Cajun, the show is about films that take place in France. So I covered Brotherhood of the Wolf with Duncan McLeish from the podcast Under the Stairs, plus a couple of other shows, and I covered Where, the new werewolf film, with Ryan Lewis from Graveshift Radio.
Now that's Where, W-E-R-E, right? Not with an H?
Just W-E-R.
Oh, just W-E-R. Oh, like there, like German?
Except it's French.
It's
but
French.
Yeah.
Okay.
I liked it. That's a fun episode, and I threw in a cool song called Loup Garou, right there for the song of the episode. So yeah, everyone should go check that out. It's at horrorphilia.com, or you can go directly to the Liken It website, which is likenitshow.com.
Likenitshow.com. Now the link on the Facebook, is that the link to get the podcast, right? It's not the link to the airing?
Correct. That's the link to go and download the podcast.
Okay. The only live ones you do are this one and your Insomniac playlist. Okay, so you're downloading there. Excellent. So Liken It, or for me, I'm just going to go right to the Facebook, but likenitshow.com.
Yes.
All right. Perfect.
And I also did a really fun episode of Insomniac's playlist last night, which involved scores and a couple of songs from zombie movies.
Ooh, nice.
Which was really fun. I gave that a listen back today, and that was a really fun playlist to put together. And it's also kind of fun because right in the middle of the show, or I guess towards the end a little bit, you hear me get to be actually scared live while I'm doing the show. I was I was queuing up the theme song for Day of the Dead,
Mm-hmm.
and which is a film that in reality scares me.
Right.
Like, I can't sleep
Mhm.
after I watch that movie at night. And so I was starting to freak myself. I mean, at this point, I had done the theme from Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Fulci's Zombie. And I mean, it just some really great but eerie scores. And I was really starting to wig myself out.
Mm-hmm.
And right as I'm about to introduce the score for that movie, I look just to the right, and Pugsley had jumped up onto the arm of the sofa and was right, just barely within my peripheral, and just scared the shit out of me. I mean, I screamed right on the show. So you get that live, which I think was pretty funny, and I'm leaving it when I post the show. It's in there. I mean, it's going to be in there. So when I post the show into the archives, I'm not cutting that out. So that'll be pretty fun.
Yeah, Day of the Dead. That one was. I mean, fortunately with us, with our cats, we have one smaller one who can be a little stealthier. The other one, he's a big orange guy, and so he makes his presence known if he's in the area. So luckily we don't have that problem here. But yeah, Day of the Dead. I remember that one being, a very, very scary one. Just that whole thing with the bunker, and then the one that they were trying to tame, or they thought they had tamed, the zombie that they thought they had tamed or made whole. That was an interesting movie.
It is, and it's kind of funny because when it came out, it didn't get a lot of acclaim. I mean, it just sort of tanked. But since then, it has become a favorite, and I think it's for a very good reason. It's a solid film. It reeks of the Cold War
Mm-hmm.
and what was going on at the time. This was 1985, so it reeks of all the things that were going on socially and politically at the time. And to me, there's some just really frightening moments. I mean, truly frightening moments. I've seen it. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen it, and it still scares me.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of respect to that film for scaring the shit out of me. And Pugsley too. He likes to do that though. He weighs 16 pounds. It's not like
so he's
he's
a big guy
little
too.
bitty thing.
Yeah.
But he's solid black, and he's got long hair, and so he just looks like a shadow.
Yeah.
And when I turned to the right, I just saw the shadow in my peripheral. But one time I was reading Hell House. No, I wasn't. I was reading dang it. The Richard Matheson book. Brian, help me. I know you're out there.
Yeah. Give us an assist here, Brian. I'm not sure if I know the book either.
Maybe it is. It is Hell House. Anyway, I was reading that, and I had gotten to this particularly scary part where the ghost had just formed itself in front of this woman, and I just moved my book slightly, and standing right behind my book was Pugsley. And he just scared the shit out of me. And I threw my book. And he does that. He likes to do that. I think it's his plan.
Yeah, that's our cats tend to do more, like especially JD, the big orange guy. They like to do. Oh, Brian helps us out with that. Yes, it is Hell House. But
he's the guy to have around the day after an emergency.
Right, of course. Yes. Here we are. Yes. Hey, better late than never, right? Well, I don't know. That's not always true, but in this case, I think it was. Yes. But he tends to do like the Michael Myers. Like you just look up and he's staring into the room at you. Like that's his thing. That's what we always, Jen always talks about him creeping, and yeah, he just just be in an area. And he could be staring at me right now. Oh no, he's laying on his back, so that's all right. But
I think that's how they get their fun. They don't do a whole lot, so they have to have some fun at our expense on occasion.
Yeah, it helps them feel like they're in control a little bit. They don't like being out of control. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've got going on there, and I'm still going. The next two in playlists are going to be Halloween themed in some way or another. So fun times.
Nice. So then so there'll be one next week, and then there'll be you'll have two before Halloween, I guess.
Hmm?
Yeah, because Halloween's on a Friday. Sweet. So yeah, so we've got one on. That'll be the 21st, right? Today's the 15th.
Yes.
Yeah, I can do
Yes.
math sometimes. I took
21st and then the 28th.
20. So yeah, so okay, perfect. Yeah, so
And
two
then
more.
you and I will be doing our Halloween show on the 29th.
The 29th, we're going to do a great one with Alex from Skeleton Crew.
Yes, I'm very excited. I love it when my worlds collide in the podcast universe. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be an exciting one. We're going to be talking about the Vincent Price House on Haunted Hill for that one. So I'm excited for that one too. I think, I've been, like I was telling Jamie earlier, I've been seeing Vincent Price on a lot of older shows on MeTV. He was on The Love Boat on Sunday, and then he was on the Brady's, the Hawaiian episode a little while ago. So every time I see him, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to do this episode.
They know that.
Yeah.
The TV people know that.
They know.
They're trying to pump up your excitement.
Exactly. Well, speaking of excitement, I don't think this movie we're about to talk about here, Dredd.
You are a pro.
I banged it. But Dredd, I had been hearing great things about Dredd for a long time. People have been going on my Facebook, sending me texts or whatever, friends of mine saying, "Have you seen Dredd yet? Are you gonna do Dredd for the blog? Are you gonna, this and that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I want to see it. It looks so good. It looks like right up my alley." And so then, I was going through my queue for movies, and I was like, "Oh, there's Dredd." And so I mentioned to you, and you were like, "Yes, this is a good one." So I was excited, and it lived up to all of my expectations. And again, you were saying you loved it as well, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good movie's a good time. I was a little late watching it. It's not that I didn't want to see it or anything like that, and I had heard nothing but good things about it. But it was just one of those that I had just kept pushing off. And Brian was like, "You gotta watch that movie. We gotta watch the movie. I want to watch Dredd." Like every time we turn around, I want to watch Dredd. So finally, I relented, and we watched Dredd, and I loved it. And so then when you mentioned it for tonight's show, I was on board with that and excited to watch it again. And I said, "Brian, you want to watch Dredd with me?" And he's like, "You don't have to ask me twice."
Yes.
So it gets glowing recommendations pretty much all around.
Yeah, and I mean the first thing I want to talk about is what you were saying with you and Brian earlier about how the film is simpler, and when I compare it to it, maybe we shouldn't be comparing it to the '95 one that and now it's like almost 20 years ago that movie came out, the Sylvester Stallone one in 1995. But that one in 1995 was like, it was almost like the big 80s action movie had sort of been played out. We'd had enough of that movie. And, it felt like Demolition Man, or I don't know, it just felt like it was too big. In this movie, it had all of the action you want. It had big special effects. It had big scenes. But it was very compact. It was very simple. The story was very simple. And it all worked on every level for me.
I completely agree with that. I do. And what's funny? That you should mention Demolition Man in the same sentence with Judge Dredd, because I constantly get those two films mixed up. Like what happened in what movie.
Right. Yes.
I can't get them straight in my head for some reason. And it's been a long time since I've seen either of them. But I keep confusing myself as to, was that Demolition Man or was that Judge Dredd? Ah, shit. I mean, but they're pretty much the same caliber.
They are. It's the same movie. Yeah. And so I think what happened was, I think because of that movie, because that one, it was a flop, because again, people had, when they saw it, they weren't thinking like, oh, Judge Dredd. I mean, maybe some people were thinking about the comic, but I think a lot of people were just like, I've had enough Stallone. This is too much. It's gotten to be ridiculous. And I think that's why people wrote it off, and it felt like that. Watching the movie again, I watched it for my blog, I think in 08, 09, because or maybe it was 2010. I wrote in the blog that it had been 15 years since since it came out. But even watching it then, I could kind of bring myself back to '95 and feel that like we've had enough Stallone. And I think it was good that we had whatever it was, almost 20 years of a break here that allowed someone to come in and reimagine everything. And I hate that term, reimagine, but do the whole thing completely differently, give it the modern feel, use modern special effects, but also to make it big in every way, but not that kind of gross 90s big that action became at that time,
Yeah, and I think that they did it. I also like the fact that it virtually takes place in one spot.
Yeah.
The entire time. Once we get to that building, we're in that building till the very end. And I like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that there's uh, they didn't try to infuse a contrived plot into the whole thing. It's a very simple plot. You
Yeah.
know, Mama came in, she took over this block, she's created slow mo, this drug that makes you feel like time is moving at 1/10 of its speed, which is a very cool thing.
Yes.
And then we get that fantastic murder sequence where the three guys are skinned
Oh, yeah.
and given slow mo before that, and then tossed over the side. So everything that they went through, including falling off the side or falling over the side and hitting the floor, was going in slow motion. So that it just gives you that much more time
Mm-hmm.
to reflect on what's happening. You know.
Yes.
One issue though I have with that, and I thought about this when I was watching it for this show. It didn't actually strike me with the first time, with the first viewing, but then when I watched it this time, and it didn't occur to me in the beginning with the three guys, because I was just like, God, that's really awful. That is a
Yes.
really horrible way to die, and
Yes.
it's awesome.
Right. Exactly.
But
Exactly.
then when Mama gets tossed over the side, I was thinking, you know, just because her perception of time has slowed down, it doesn't mean that time has really slowed down.
Right.
So her body is going to hit the ground and she will die. Like her brain will be dead. So
Yes.
it's no longer able to process the fact that this is going slow, because it just, you know, so really it doesn't, I'm not sure how that works. I mean,
Yeah.
does that really then take longer for you to die, or do you just end up, I mean, you really, I guess you die before your brain even realizes you've hit the ground.
Yeah.
You know, you're still way back there, and your brain is smashed on the floor, so you don't get the full effect.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
in reality.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like it should. It. I think it was their way of because I think the whole slow mo thing for me, at least the way I looked at it was this way of escaping that horrible life, that horrible existence that the future was. Because you notice it was nice and colorful too. It wasn't just like the screenwriter or the filmmakers did a really great job of making it not just slow motion but colorful, sparkly. It was a real escape. And I think that's a good point. Like I think they were so focused on that aspect of it, that slow-mo is an escape from this horrible world that they all live in, that they didn't think about that idea that probably for her, mentally probably around the 10th floor, she's the lights are out,
Right. So really you don't get the satisfaction of knowing that she felt herself
Right.
hit the floor, even though in the film she's still very much
Right.
alive when she hits the floor.
Yes.
I think if you were to really look at that, like take it scientifically, that she's still mentally way up there, so she doesn't actually feel that impact, because the impact happens before her brain even has caught up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's too much thought. I mean, that is way too much thought to be putting into this, because really what you have is a very cool effect.
Yes.
That if you don't think too much about it, then it works beautifully. So I'm gonna leave it there. Because I'm happy with it.
But I agree with you.
But that just struck me toward the end. I was like, well, huh.
Brian just made a point here that her brain processes it slower. Now I don't know how that means that the brain processes the death slower too.
Well, true, but I'm saying by the time her brain gets to the point of the death,
right,
her brain's no longer working.
Yeah, how can it keep processing? Yes.
So it can't continue to process it.
Right.
Because that mechanism has been smashed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea is a fantastic idea.
Right.
And it's a really cool one. I just not really solid on how it would play out scientifically. But, like I said, I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, I really don't care. That's just a thought that happened to strike me while I was watching it this time. But I don't think it takes anything away. And I'm going to give them that anyway, because it was just a really cool idea. I don't know. And I love the way this film looks.
Yes.
Not
it does.
in the slow-mo sequences, I love that.
Yeah.
But like you get that sequence in the very beginning of the film where she's in the bathtub and she's on slow-mo, and then you can just see the water arcing up, and you get the colors, and it looks really nice.
Yeah.
And straight through, I think this film looks really nice.
It's that idea of the escape, and I think I that's why I missed that aspect of it, because for me, the very first time you see the slow-mo is when the guys are in the chase, and
Yes.
and I think it's such a stark contrast from what the world had been up until that point for us. Everything was darker, kind of washed out. It was drearier, and it's almost as if like that, that for me, like, it always transported me into that idea of escape, that it was escape. But see, for me, I think looking at it though from what you're saying, I kind of I agree with you on that. I think it was one of those ones that I missed, just because I was looking at it from a cinematic angle, I guess, and didn't even think of it from that logical aspect of it, that it kind of even if you're processing it slower, you don't have that time when you're dead. The brain can't process anything when it's hit a solid
when
surface.
It's smashed on the floor, your ride's over.
Yeah, that's it.
And so she doesn't. I think what would happen is that she wouldn't actually feel the pain.
No.
Of smashing into the floor.
Right, she wouldn't know.
She's dead before that.
It's like he did her a
before brain
favor.
gets there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what that's actually why I thought about that, because I was thinking, God, I really wanted her to suffer more.
Yes, yeah, she was a bad baddie. She was, yeah.
She's straight up evil.
Yes. Ooh. Yeah.
And and hardcore. And
yes.
They tell the story about how she went in, she went straight to the top of this block, which is 200 floors, and then just basically took the whole thing over all the way down. And that's pretty powerful, And it reminds me of, like, say if you transport yourself back to New Jack City, and you have those buildings that are crack dens.
Yes.
And then you go in, and there's just floors and floors and floors, and people still live in this apartment building, but all over the lobby and everything is just, there are people just strung out, and then all these crackheads, and they've completely just taken over this building.
Yeah. And
it's kind of like a really scary, horrific existence. And I think that living in this world, in the Dredd world, would be like that. It's really frightening. And the medic even says, how often do you think we get judges here?
Right.
Judges don't come here.
Right.
Which means, which is a scary thought. Is you've got really bad people who live in this building, and it's just, you can imagine the rapes and the murders and the robberies and all of that. It's just, it's not safe. It's the Anderson brings up, or Andrews, can't remember, brings up how she wants to make a difference because she grew up in an area like that, and there are good people that live there. They're just trying to get by.
Yeah. And
so then it just kind of makes you feel for them, because you're just, imagine just trying to be a family, but that's all you can afford. That's the only place you can live, and it's this really scary, dangerous place, and the cops won't even come there.
Right.
So
yeah.
Anyway, we get this really dark, from the very beginning, a really dark view of what the future has become.
Yeah, there were so many aspects of this that I kind of geeked out about, and one of them was this idea of Mega City 1, because Mega City 1, being from Boston all the way to Washington, D.C., that's actually like a legit designation that, as an anthropology major, but also, like geographers and stuff, they have this idea of what they call the northeastern or the northern megalopolis, that is that same designation, Boston to DC, and it's like roughly like 55 million people. I'm currently living in Philly. I'm like right in the nexus of it, and I could almost be like, where I'm living could be where the block was. You know what I mean? It could be that area. And when you think of 800 million people in an area that right now has 55 million and feels crowded, 800 million, that block itself could probably be like 100,000 people, and you saw they had a school in it, had shops in it. That's probably like, that's their whole life. It's almost like a whole city within that whole structure. And yeah, to think about that, and and like the whole thing with the guys being skinned alive. I think, again, anthropology major, but thinking about when you had war, when you had people doing these kind of things to each other, and I guess on some level they still do. If you end up getting caught with the wrong characters in parts of Central Asia or something like that, you could find yourself on the wrong end of something like that. But we used to have to study cultures from 200 or 300 years ago that would exact that kind of punishment on for people being religiously having the wrong religious affiliation or something like that. And you think of the future somehow kind of regressing to that level where it's kind of a, that's what's going to happen, these tribes almost, or, they call them clans. But in a way, they're almost like that sort of like that, sort of fighting for dominance, almost the way you'd think of like Mongol nomadic tribes that were fighting, and Genghis Khan somehow takes over the whole thing in a brutal, very strong, powerful way. And then she was kind of, as her own kind of Genghis Khan, ready to kind of branch out. She was ready to start taking over other blocks,
She was hard. I just, every time I think of that, you just mentioned the skinning thing again.
Yeah.
Every time I think about that, it just
they showed a little bit of it.
Runs all over me.
It does, me too. Just think, because they only showed like a small clip of it happening, and it was so, and I thought they were going to let us off easy with it, but they kind of did, but they kind of didn't, and I think that was kind of how this movie was in general. Like, they some areas they'd let you off easy, but sometimes they were going to give you the hard facts of what they wanted you to think of this futuristic world.
Yeah, we get we get some humor here too when we when we first go into the block. There's the homeless man on the sitting on the side, and he's like, vagrancy. You're going into the ISO box. Don't be here when we get back. And he doesn't move.
Right.
He's just like, all right. And then I'm thinking, well, look where he is.
Yes.
And look what he's doing. Maybe he's thinking, go ahead, pick me up, take me. It'll be
better for me.
Maybe it'll be better for a little while. Yeah. But then, of course, when they come back, then the wall comes down.
Yeah.
Right on top of that poor unfortunate man, which I can't help it, but I laugh every time.
I know, because it's this idea of this brutal future where 800 million people, you're trying to eke out an existence and try to like form some sort of identity, I guess, in the midst of this mass of humanity. I mean, things happen, and you don't want to be the human being that is sitting where the gate drops, or you don't want to be the human being that's on the block that decides to get destroyed through like armor-piercing bullets with a Gatling gun by Mama. You know what I mean?
Do you, when you think of the future, do you prefer to think of the future being sort of a dystopia or more of a utopia? Not that you have to live in it,
right?
Because obviously, if you're going to live in it, then you want the nice one.
Yeah.
But when you watch a film that takes place in the future, what do you prefer to see? Do you want it dark and gritty like this? Do you want it shiny and clean like Logan's Run? Like,
boy, I like them. If it's a good story, I like them both, because like this movie, for instance. This was, like you said, it was very simple. All we were given was the block. We were given the dirty, gritty humanity. It would have been interesting, and maybe they'll do this in future movies if they're going to keep carrying this franchise on, which I heard. It looks like they might be. It looks like there's a sequel in the works. I'm not sure. But it would be nice to see what the elites are like, because there have to be some.
Same thing.
Yeah.
There are always elites. That there is never going to not be someone who is ahead of the pack, someone who has more than someone else.
Yes.
That's just human nature. So I was thinking the same thing. I would love to see what the opposite end of life looks like in this world, because we didn't get any of that.
No.
And where do the judges live?
Right.
What is their life like? And I don't know, I would like to know more about this world.
Yeah, because you think about that with the 4 judges who come in who are crooked judges, I guess we could call them, like crooked cops, and they wanted 1 million credits. We don't really get any sense of what that means, 1 million credits. It sounds like a lot of money because we think of $1 million. But I was left with some of those questions too. I was like, how do they spend that? Where do they spend that on? Where are the places you can go that you can live in that kind of luxury, and that 1 million credits means something? And you get the sense that Judge Dredd, he's almost like, have you seen that movie Drive with Ryan Gosling?
Yes.
Yeah, Judge Dredd seems to have that same sort of existentialist, like, impetus, where it's like he only lives for one thing, and that's dispensing justice. And so for him, 1 million credits means absolutely nothing, right? It is not going to.
I can't imagine he's ever out of his uniform.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, what does he need them for? Because
right.
I don't ever see him sitting back, chilling, watching TV or watching a movie or going out doing anything fun. I don't see him using money for anything other than sustenance
Mm-hmm.
and replacing worn uniform parts.
Right, exactly.
Maybe upgrading his weapons.
Yes, and a place to live, and who knows where he lives. It probably lives in maybe like a gated community of that sort, but not anything too fancy.
No, I picture it being very stark and just bare, minimum,
Yeah. And I think this is one thing about this movie, talking about Dredd's character, where you think of Karl Urban playing the character, he's not a Sylvester Stallone type. Stallone needed to have his mask off as much as he could in the film. He needs his face on screen. And even now, doing the Expendables and with all the Botox and work he's had done, he needs his face on screen. Whereas Karl Urban is like, hey, put the mask on me the whole film. I want to be Judge Dredd. I want, I'm going to do my best to make this character what everybody wants him to be or everybody's expecting. And I thought that was refreshing too, that this was just that character. There was no, again, like we're talking about, he doesn't need money for any, he lives to dispense justice and that's it.
Yeah, there's a scene even where he comes face to face with another judge who is about to kill him.
Right.
And if you didn't have, when they're talking, they sound the same. And their jawline looks the same. If you didn't have them with different helmets,
right,
and different, and in one of them being slumped on the floor or one of them being standing up and threatening, if you didn't have that, then they're very much the same. They're you wouldn't be able to tell them apart really. And when they were talking, if I wasn't looking, I wouldn't have known for sure which one was talking.
Right.
That was just how. But I like the fact that he's not afraid to just bleed into the film for whatever the film needs to be. There's no, because honestly, if you didn't know who it was, you wouldn't necessarily know who it was. I mean, it could have been anyone
to play the part.
To play that part.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like that when someone takes a lead role like that and they're not afraid to just go in and go, yep, this is what I'm going to do. You're never going to see my face.
Yeah. You're
never going to know for a fact it's me, but that's me.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that in the one that Stallone did, like, there's even some sort of a situation where he loses the mask or something like that. Like, they write it into the script that he doesn't have the mask, so Stallone's face could be on screen as much as possible. And again, I think that it was not the Judge Dredd. This was a Judge Dredd that you could get behind. It was like almost like an old West style like sheriff or something, just kind of coming in from out of town and cleaning up this horrible mess that's going on here. And he's got the young apprentice with him who she has her own deal that she her own abilities that she brings to things. But the whole thing, like you said, that simplicity and it all worked so well. And I think you're right. I'd like to see what the elites are like. I'd like to see what their lives are like. I'd like to see another installment of this. But I think for what we had, it was an interesting thing.
Oh, I was on board completely. There's never a dull moment.
Yeah.
There's never a moment where you're stuck trying to piece your way through the plot because they've made it too complicated.
Yeah. And
so it overshadows the action. That doesn't happen here. It's a very simple plot. There's nothing you don't have to worry about that about bothering with that and missing out on the action while you're trying to figure stuff out because it's all very right in front of you. And I think that works to this film's favor. It's not a detriment at all. I mean, we say it all the time. That's probably one of the things we've said more than anything else on this show is that stop fucking up your action films by trying to make them too busy.
Yes.
Don't give me too much to have to try to figure out or think about when I'm too busy trying to watch people get mowed down.
Yes.
Because that's what I'm watching this movie for.
Yeah.
And that's what we get. We get some really fun weapons. I love the weapons where you can have incendiary, you can have armor piercing, just and all at once, which was fantastic. I love the fact that we have a mutant here and she's a mind reader. I think that worked beautifully, and it wasn't just one of those things that was tossed out there, used once and then never thought of again. It was used several times throughout the film, all in very interesting ways. Every one of these characters was engaging. I really can't find anything wrong with it. I can't fault this film for anything because never once am I thinking, oh, God, I just want this to be over.
Right.
You
No,
know,
that didn't. No, you're right about that.
in so many of the movies that we have covered, I have found
Yes.
myself going, God, I just want this to be over.
Yes.
And that never happens here, not even for a second. So, I mean, and this was my second watch. I think I even enjoyed it more on my second watch than I did on the initial viewing. And that's because on the initial, more than likely, because on the initial viewing I was really busy trying to just take everything in,
Mhm.
setting wise, because the set here is beautifully done. That
Yeah.
everything's fantastic. So I was trying to take it all in, and this time I was able to just dig in
Mhm.
to the murder and the mayhem, which was more than satisfying.
Yes. Now, one thing I wanted to point out about the psychic thing, because this was one thing that I kind of felt like the movie, it may or may not have done, it may or may not have been a weakness, and the movie can actually itself maybe like try to cover up for this. But I thought the fact that the psychic, that she, was her name Anderson? I think was her character name.
I can't remember if it was Anderson or Andrews.
Yeah, it was one of those two. But she allows herself. She gets captured. Right. The other guy, he catches her. He kind of gets a hold of her, gets her gun, whatever, and takes her. It was Anderson. Okay. So he takes her hostage, and my thinking was, well, if she's a psychic, she should have seen that he was going to attack her. The guy that they had arrested, that the Klan guy that they arrested and were going to take in. I was like, oh, if she's a psychic, she should know. And I felt like it created this whole damsel in distress construct that it was almost like it was stuck in the film. Like they felt like they needed Dredd to save her. But then it kind of worked itself a little differently, and I wonder if maybe if maybe because she was a psychic, like maybe she was controlling his mind, and because the other thing I thought was interesting was that Mama made it clear that she wasn't going to be tortured at all. And I wonder if maybe she was controlling their minds and was just kind of getting in there to see what was going on. I don't know if the film did that on purpose or if it was just lazy writing that allowed her to get captured. I don't know. What do you think about that part?
Oh, I just sort of chalked it up to the fact that she's a rookie.
Yeah, that could, yeah.
I mean, she was thrown into the deep end here with no experience whatsoever. And I guess I didn't spend too much time thinking about that, because it didn't seem all that unlikely considering the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, they're surrounded by nothing but bad element, and she really has no idea. I mean, although she is a very strong character, and she's good at what she does. I mean, she jumped in pretty quickly and learned the ropes. But I think I just sort of chalked it up to her just not having a whole lot of experience, and it didn't seem all that odd to me. But I didn't put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah, Brian just mentioned maybe because she was focused on the other two guys, the two kids with the guns, that were trained on Dredd. I mean, there was that too. The one thing I could say is that maybe when she does get captured and she's up there, that's where she uses her mind control power, or she uses her psychic powers or whatever to maybe control Mama's mind so that she doesn't get tortured, doesn't get,
Well, I think that Mama's reasoning for what she said made sense, at least at the time. I mean, because that was before they had the whole lockdown and called in the other judges and everything. So, I mean, her reasoning there was, we have to make it look like a drug bust gone bad. We have to make it look, there's going to be nothing, what am I? Nothing gratuitous done here to point the finger where it doesn't need to be pointing. So I don't know. It made sense to me. Her reasoning made sense to me. But even though considering her character, I thought it was an interesting move because she is so violent and so vicious. But then I thought, well, that's kind of strategic.
Yeah. This movie, it is, and I think for, there's small quibbles with the film, because like you said, overall it was like everything was, the whole thing with the judge, the other judges coming in, with her, like you said, it seemed a little out of character, but on the other hand, she's calculating enough that, it could have been the right call to just,
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to be able to go in and take over a huge block like this and completely command a situation like she does if you aren't calculating.
Yeah.
So she clearly has the mastermind brains going on behind that can override her sense of viciousness and cruelty. So yeah, I think she does have that self-preservation, and she's the boss for a reason. Because she's not stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a good baddie. I almost kind of felt bad that she bit it at the end there. But, I mean, you could always do the old, Hans Gruber thing with Die Hard and just bring in another, her sister, right? Jeremy Irons could play her sister maybe, in the next film.
Yeah, he's not doing anything.
No,
right now,
right? Yes. But yeah, I thought that, there were so many elements of this that, like I was talking about, like women. This film had women in strong roles for a film that is about a guy. It's about Dredd. That's his name. You had a villain in Mama who was amazing, and then also you had the Rookie, who was a strong character who, without her, Dredd doesn't get through this whole thing. It's not like he got out of everything. You know what I mean? She helps him at the end to escape.
I mean, he is looking at the business end of that other judge's gun,
right, yeah.
and he's on the verge of. If she hadn't come up behind him when she did, he would have gotten killed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, she ended up being much more heroic than I think he even pictured her being. So he did not, in the end, save the day all by himself and become this huge hero who just she was. Because back in the day when you would have action films, and even if you had a female character, they would just be sort of tagging along. The Jennifer Lopez to
Parker.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They'd be tagging along, and they'd be getting in the way, and they would be making silly jokes about breaking nails and getting dirty, and
yes.
and they would and it would they would never be. You'd have that one moment where they might jump on the bad guy's back and try to strangle him while he's spinning her around, and that comedic moment
yes.
where they're trying to, or they might pick up something and hit somebody with it, but they would always actually end up hitting the hero instead because they're a girl and they do it wrong. It's
yes, exactly.
I'm thinking of like the Alan Quartermain and like Sharon Stone in that she didn't really ever do anything except for walk around being pretty and complain about things, and so that's pretty much what the role of woman was in action for a long time.
Yeah.
And, this film has none of that.
Right.
And even the character that we meet who lives in the building, and she has the child, and her husband is out, and he's out looking for the judges. She's even very strong. I mean, you just get this sense of strength from her, that she's kind of holding her family together, and she tells them where the elevator is, and she wants them out of her apartment, and she wants them gone, but she's doing that out of a sense of preservation. And then she even tells the judge, she's like, I'm not doing this for you.
Right.
But this woman is strong.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to be, I guess, to live in this world. But we don't have any damsels
exactly
in this film. These are all very powerful women, and I really dig that. So we have, not only does the hero never show his face, he is this character throughout the entire thing, but he also he has his vulnerabilities, and the woman ends up being just as important as he is. Yeah,
and that's a great point too that I didn't consider, is that while the main character, we never see his face, our two female characters, we do get their faces. They are completely, Judge Dredd really, there's something about him where, he does have weaknesses, but he's almost like, he's not human. And, so many action movies, like the main star, it's almost like the female character is just there to be like his humanity. They're the ones that show the weakness that humans have. And these characters, both of these female characters weren't doing that. Like, they weren't there to be the weak part for our hero. They weren't there to be his emotion or his weakness. They were there to do their part as the villain who is calculating and vicious and cruel, and as and then Anderson as the rookie, but as a rookie who she has powers that Dredd doesn't have, and she can do things that he can't do, and so he he needs her in a certain way, as opposed to the action hero who doesn't need, I mean, like that, going back to her getting captured, he doesn't go up there and rescue her and carry her off, in his arms. She has to get herself out of that situation and then come down and save him. So it's a very different, use of that construct too.
And I like that.
Yeah.
But she does have, if there is heart in this film, she's the one who injects it, because we have the moment where she's face to face with the woman who she knows that this man is dead.
Right.
Already, that her husband is dead. And, she wants to tell her for a minute, which I think would have been a really stupid move.
Right.
Because if you tell that woman that her husband is already dead, then she has no reason to then help you or want you to. I mean, she's just going to start raising alarms.
Right.
Which she said, I'm not raising alarms. My husband's out there.
Right.
But you tell her he's dead, and then all bets are off.
Yeah.
So I'm like, don't say anything. But, for a moment she wanted to, and you could feel that there was a little bit of heart there. At the end, we have the computer guy who he was a victim, and he was used by Mama and tortured and, horribly treated. And she lets him go because, she's like, I'm still under my assessment. I'm still dispensing justice, and justice right now says that he is a victim and he needs to go free.
Yeah.
And so we do have, whereas Dredd, he just sees black and white.
Yes.
And so she does have the humanity there, but it's not a weakness. It's not the, like the mealy mouth humanity, and it's not, bleeding heart humanity. It's just some humanity.
That's an interesting thing you talk about, the black and white, because this might be a silly comparison, but Jen and I watched Dragnet, from the 60s, and and it's interesting because Dredd kind of reminds me of a Joe Friday type, where he too also lived only to uphold the law. And I remember when they were talking about, I think, like kids smoking weed or something, and how they were trying to get high, and Harry Morgan says something to him like, I don't get kids today. In our day, everything was black and white. Everything was good or bad, and you knew what was good and what was bad, and nobody was trying to do the bad things. And in his mind, he thought it was all black and white. And, Dredd seems to have that same idea, that it's all black and white. And the other thing, too, of course, like a Joe Friday or any great detective, he sees anomalies where the rest of us don't think anything's wrong, and he's able to pick up on things. Like, remember that judge who comes in to try to kind of draw him out, like, oh, your backup's here. I'm here. I'm your backup. I'm here. And he's like, well, wait a second. Why didn't you ask about?
Right. There were two of us.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
How did you know that she was cat? You know what I mean? Like, boom, and then of course he breaks his windpipe and takes him down. But it's that idea, and I think that to be able to as opposed to the Stallone one, where it was your straight up actioner, big actioner, where Diane Lane was, I don't want to say she was the eye candy, but she wasn't she was your classic woman who's just kind of there in the film. And in the 90s they were trying to inject a sort of toughness into the female character in those films, but it was still only to play second fiddle. It was never to be Diane Lane would never be in a situation where she was gonna maybe in the film a couple times maybe she shoots a guy that was about to kill Stallone, but overall there was never going to be a situation where she was going to need to save the day or anything like that.
That was Stallone's movie.
Exactly.
That's why we saw his face.
Yes, exactly.
But then, in a lot of times back then too, strong woman equaled bitch.
Yes. Yeah.
And so if you had a powerful woman, if you had a woman who could take care of herself or who could handle things or who could help out in a situation, she always had to be this like raving bitch while she was doing it. I'm like, God.
Yeah.
Wait, there are some middle ground here. You don't have to be like a sniveling coward,
right.
Or just crazy bitch. I can't think of another word.
No, I know exactly what you mean, though. It's that idea that you're one or the other. Beefy Beard just mentioned it was actually Amar DeSante's movie, which I agree. I think he stole that movie, but still, I think one thing that was really good about having Anderson's character is that we had a female villain, and we were able to but even the female villain, like, she was cruel, she was nasty. She was a scary woman, but she wasn't like a bitch in that sense, and also she had the scars from her pimp when she was a prostitute. So you also get the sense too that she has been through a lot as well. So it's not simply that she's just walking around in her really tight fitting business suit with her hair pinned up, exacting justice on people. Like, she is from the block. She's been through a lot, and the fact that she's a scary woman, that she is vicious and will do horrible things. It's different than the fact that she's just a strong woman and a bitch. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
and you get a sense of depth to her character.
Mm-hmm.
You know a little bit about her background, and so I mean, I find myself when I'm watching this film, even though she's doing these really horrible things, and I don't like her. I do not like her at all, and I want her to be taken out, which is exactly how you're supposed to feel. At the same time, we do get a little bit of her background. We do get a sense of depth that allows me to think, God, she's been through some shit.
Mm-hmm.
And she came out the other side, so and became really powerful. She focused it all on all the wrong things.
Yeah.
And she ended up being powerful in a lot of bad ways, but at the same time, you kind of have to have a little bit of respect for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because she came from this one end where she had a pimp, and then he cut her up, and God only knows what the hell else she went through.
Exactly.
And then now she is running the show.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is a little bit of respect commanded for that kind of development.
Yeah.
Even though she's you hate her.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's a really bad person.
Exactly.
But you have to go, well, damn, look what she did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's an interesting thing too, because I was thinking about there's that the whole reason why this film happens is that they arrest one of her major dealers, one of the major higher ups in her operation, and they're about to take him to the station and interrogate him. And she says, well, if they interrogate him, he's going to tell everything, meaning that the police in the future, or the judge or whatever, they don't use the nicest tactics either. They are not the most up and up organization, and so they aren't. We know Dredd is out there defending everything, but he also has this black and white sense in his mind. Okay, a drug dealer deserves to be tortured until he gives up the information he has, and so there is a little bit of a sense too that the way that this world works, the deck is stacked against these people, and they're trying to carve out the best existence that they can, and it just happens. I mean, we want Mama to lose. We want her to get taken down. She's a scary, vicious woman who's doing some very bad things. But there is a sense that, that the world is a very cruel place, and maybe Andersons are one link to the real people in this 800 million, person city that everybody gets lost in every day.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's a hard existence, and especially when you have someone like the judges who are, and they say it in the very beginning, they are judge, jury, and executioner.
Mm-hmm.
They will sentence you right away.
Mm-hmm.
And what your sentence is, there's no due process.
Yes.
Here. What your sentence is before you even get carted off.
Mm-hmm.
So either you're going to be spending 2 weeks in the ISO chamber, or you're going to be shot dead, depending on what you did.
Mm-hmm.
But and so that's kind of scary too.
Yeah.
To know that your fate pretty much lies in the hand of this judge that comes along and makes these decisions, and I can imagine that would be a really frightening existence, and I don't want any part of it.
No, either. No. When we think of the future, it works great in a movie, but yes, we don't want to think about that being our future in real life.
No. No, I want to die before it gets to that point.
Yes, yeah. Well, let's we got a long ways to go, but people are see now. If you want to think about where a mega city would happen, in this country right now, the migration I think is headed south, isn't it? Aren't people, especially from the Midwest, they're all headed south? So you might have mega city going from Atlanta all the way to New Orleans or something like that.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I mean, Atlanta is a pretty big metropolis right now. We have major hubs for huge businesses. The second largest airport in the world, our busiest airport. I mean, it's just everything. We're the big thing in the South as far as cities go, and so yeah, this would definitely be I think if this world were to break down like this, you'd end up having a mega city in this area
Yeah.
that would definitely include Atlanta, and it's already scary.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, no, I was thinking
But it's
about
not like New York in the late 70s
right.
scary.
Yeah.
But,
Right. Yes. Which also provided a great backdrop to a lot of great movies, but yes, but still.
And actually, to me, is one of the major characters in the original Maniac. I
Yeah.
think the city itself is lends itself to being just a character in and of itself in that film, and in a lot of films, it was just very gritty.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why I'm talking about that now, but
But it's that idea, of the future. I think for when Dredd was first conceived, I'm trying to think when that was. It would have probably been in the 80s, right? I think it was when or was it even before that? I probably should know this going into the podcast, but whenever it was conceived, New York, that whole corridor, the 95 corridor from Boston to DC, was the central part of the United States. It was kind of like where everything was based on, and we still kind of live in a East Coast center or East Coast bias in the country, but things have changed so much immensely since then, where the West Coast has emerged, like the South, especially from when manufacturing died out in the Midwest. A lot of those people moved south. A lot of those factories moved south too. So it's almost like the idea of megacity being Boston to DC is almost kind of going out, and you'd almost think that you'd have a maybe a southern centric one or something like that, or even maybe something in the on the West Coast or something like that.
yeah, I imagine you would, and I think the West Coast one would be pretty scary too.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got all the LA elements in there, which can be.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, LA is beautiful, and I love it there, but it definitely has its dark side.
Yes, it's especially when LA is the most fascinating city because the downtown is actually pretty good, but when you get out into Hollywood and those areas where you walk down the first time and you're like, wait, there's Mann's Chinese Theater or whatever, and what is this behind it? I've never seen all of this stuff behind it. They don't show that on TV. These like alleys and
No, they cut that stuff out.
Yes.
They only want you to see the pretty parts.
Yes.
It's like, look at this, look at the theater, and then look, Hollywood Hills.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Don't look at all the hookers and the drug dealers down in the middle.
Yes. Don't look at all the souvenir shops that tell you buy 10 T-shirts for $1, and then you look and it's like kids T-shirts in small letters above the thing, or whatever it is. Buy 10 T-shirts for $10, and you get there and you find out, oh, it's kids T-shirts. Okay.
I love how you focus on the weirdest shit.
Do you remember that? I remember when my friend and I, when we first went to Hollywood, we were visiting his mother in San Diego, and we drove up for the day. We ended up on the Craig Kilborn show, in the audience, because there was the guy out there handing out tickets, and we thought, oh, cool, Craig Kilborn. But I think this was in 01. But yeah, I remember we were driving by. We're like, oh, check that out, 10 T-shirts for $10. That's perfect. We'll get souvenirs for everybody. We'll be all set. And then we actually walk up there and we see in little letters the word kids, and we're just like, what the, but we're a couple of Mainers. We fell for it.
Another thing I thought of during this movie is that I figured you might be pleased that the medic, nothing really bad happens to him.
Well, no, he bites it. Remember when the new judges come in?
Oh shit, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
He needed to stay. No, but I'm gonna say with this one that if he had stayed in his medic area there, he needed to just stay. They would have left him alone, I think. But you're right. He did get it. I was thinking that earlier, though. I was like, yes, that's right. You stay in there. Don't let the judges in there. You need to be safe, Mr. Medic.
Matt is so concerned for the the people.
That's right. That's right. Now, do we have anybody coming up after us, or is John doing his music tonight?
I don't think so. I know there's crosstalk, and I'm pretty sure there's no music show.
Okay. Well, then we won't have to worry about going over a little bit. But well, why don't we say? Well, I guess we're both giving this like two big. Again, we can't say thumbs up, but we're giving it two big recommendations, right? Yes. We're both giving it two big recommendations. Up.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
This is. I know a lot of people may have stayed away from this movie just because the taste was left in their mouth from the original, which, like I said, I don't hate the original. I think it has some fun moments, even though I know a lot of comic bookers were pissed off that it was not the Judge Dredd that they knew. but I don't have any like flat out hate for it.
Yeah.
It's all right, but I know a lot of people stayed away from it, and some people stayed away from it because they didn't want to see. They just flat don't want to see a remake.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care what it is, and they don't want to see it. But I think that you'll find if you watch this film, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
You get visceral action, and I mean it's just straight up action and really well done.
Yeah.
It's a good script. It's solid performances. The special effects are fantastic. Watch the damn movie.
Yes, just watch it. This is everything. I think for the movie that was going to come after the Judge Dredd of the 90s, for the movie that was going to come after, it had to be this one. It had to be smaller in scale, yet still very big. It needed a smaller story, big special effects, but not too big. It needed to be this darker thing to it. It needed to be something that was more modern, and I think it hit on all accounts. And Karl Urban was the guy to play Judge Dredd, to really take us away from that Stallone one. We needed, if we were going to do a Judge Dredd. Now, I also don't know much about the comic book. If you are really that much of a purist, maybe stay away from it. But I think if you're looking for a great action film, this is the one to check out for sure.
Yep, can't argue with that.
I think, I don't know. Well, obviously, The Reanimator is by far always going to be the best movie that it's going to be hard to top The Reanimator. But I think this has got to be up there as one of the best that we've reviewed so far. We've talked about on here so far.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
It's definitely solid, and we've done some good movies, I hate to bring it up again, but Ninja 2 is awesome.
Ninja 2 was awesome. Ninja 2 was awesome. I think this one tops Ninja 2 for me. This one's a little bit, but
shit.
But Ninja 2 is that, yes, Ninja 2, up until this one, I think Ninja 2 was definitely our, other than The Reanimator, best up. I guess The Reanimator has to go in a different category because The Reanimator is always The Reanimator. But this was, I kind of put this one, man, I don't know. This is Ninja, that's a good point, but they're two different movies, I guess. You can't compare them.
They are. I mean, you get two completely different things. With Ninja, you get a lot of martial arts.
Yes.
That is really well done. And if I'm given a choice between shoot 'em up action and martial arts action, I will choose martial arts.
Yeah.
Just because I love to watch it when it's well done and when it's choreographed as beautifully as that film is.
Yeah.
But if you want, cool weapons and awesome deaths and some explosions and but not like Michael Bay.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Explosions. You want something a little bit reined in. Then this is definitely the action film for you because it is action straight through.
Yeah, maybe because they're both only 90 minutes apiece. Maybe what you need is a double feature. You need Ninja and Dredd.
I will be down with you.
Yeah, I think that's
then
the way.
It will satisfy all your action needs.
Exactly. Well, why don't we what do we got on tap here? I just recently put up the Force of Execution post, so I still don't know what's going to happen if I ever put up the podcast that I did on that night, the solo podcast, but the written blog post is up. I think my next one will be the Killing Season. I think it's time to look at that one that we did a little while, which was also a pretty solid one. Nothing in the range of this one as far as really great, but I think it's close. It was a good one, the Killing Season, and
I enjoyed that. There were some good dramatic scenes in that. I even enjoyed the Travolta accent.
Yes.
thing, that was not bad.
Yeah, yes, I was. I'm looking forward to writing that one. I think I put it off for a little bit just to get a couple older ones out of the way, but I'm looking forward to checking that one out. So hopefully by early next week I'll have that blog post up, and then that's probably the only major thing. Always check out Twitter and Facebook for updates on those things. I always post on Twitter. But also, if you follow the RSS feed of the blog, you can always check out, you'll know then, because sometimes it takes a little while for me to get on Twitter to tell everyone what happened. But how about you, Jamie? What have you got on tap coming up?
Well, coming up this week, we'll be recording the 4th installment of our Friday the 13th retrospective with Devour the Podcast, and Brian is going to be joining us. for to talk Friday 4.
Nice. Oh.
And we Skeleton Crew. We're winding down. We're coming to show 100, which will be hitting on Halloween. So we're getting down there. We just had a show all about the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Oh,
drop,
nice.
Which was the movie is regrettable, but the show is fun, and we have fun discussions about that. And then coming up next on that is going to be, we all did our top 10 all-time favorite horror films, which I think was a really fun discussion. So that's good. And Evil Episodes tonight, we're going to be talking about Todd Browning's Freaks.
Nice.
Because we're tying that into the brand new season of American Horror Story, Freak Show, which has started, and I'm very excited about that. Also, Walking Dead has started, so we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about with those two shows on Evil Episodes. Insomniac's Playlist, I've got another one coming next Tuesday at 11. I'm still not completely solid on what the theme's going to be, but I can tell you it's going to be horror related because it's Halloween. And what am I missing? Oh, and then of course the brand new episode of Liking It that is out. Go check it out now. Go to horrorphilia.com or to likenitshow.com and check out episode 5 of Liking It and hear all about Brotherhood of the Wolf and where. And if Brotherhood of the Wolf is 2001, so that's been out for a while. But Where is brand new, and you need to see it. You need to see this movie. And I guess that's pretty much it for me. I always feel like I'm leaving something out. That's the trouble with doing, 40 dozen shows.
Yes.
I always feel like I'm leaving something out. But I think that pretty much covers it.
I know. I always feel like when I'm just like, oh, I did a blog post. I always feel like did I leave anything out? Because you have so many of them, and I'm like, there must be something else that I did, and it's like, no, there isn't anything else.
I'll start lying.
No. I think it's great. No, it's good. I mean, I wish I could. For me, I think it's I always say this, but like the one podcast is great. But I think too, like if you doing that many of them, it's like you build such a really great audience, and we have people here that that will listen to us who do podcasts with you, and the same thing, like I'll check out yours from time to time, and see what's going on, and so it's kind of a cool way to get out there. The podcast it's a little bit easier than writing a blog or writing a post, because all you got to do is speak about the movie and for a good amount of time. And with this format that I have here, I mean, I don't even edit them unless the beginning is bad or something like that. I just, post them and go with it.
Yeah, and I have found that live is easier for that. Somehow. When I do a recorded show, I end up doing quite a bit of editing on that. But then, like, if I hear a live show, then like, well, it was live. So, so people who are downloading the archive, they'll just get the same experience that the people who listened live had. So if I end up screaming because my cat jumped into my peripheral vision, then you're going to hear that too.
You're going to get the cat. Yes.
I'm not cutting that out.
Yes. No, I know. Fortunately the cats have left me alone tonight, so we've been good there. Well, I guess we're just about finished then. So we do have crosstalk tonight. Do we have wrestling after as well?
No, we do not have crosstalk.
Oh, we don't? So we have no crosstalk, maybe wrestling.
I don't know.
We don't know.
I guess, you know what, people, leave it on.
Leave it on.
Leave on the second unit broadcast, and if something comes on, then you'll know about it. But I should be more informed about what comes on behind us, but John, not.
Yeah, John usually does a post on Facebook, and so when I don't get his post, then I have no idea, and so we're just kind of left wondering. But
I never know what Mo's up to.
Yeah. So, just keep us on, and don't put the speakers up too loud, because if somebody does start talking, I don't want you to have a heart attack or get startled or anything. Lower speakers, keep us on, and you might get something around 10:30ish tonight. All right. Well, thank you.
If not, then come on back on Tuesday and you'll get some more of me.
Come back on Tuesday at 11 p.m. for Jamie. So, if you don't get anything else tonight, you at least know that in a week's time you've got Jamie to look forward to.
Just leave it on all week.
That's right, leave it on all week.
Maybe somebody will pop on and do it. I've actually thought about doing that when there's no show on. I'm just like, maybe I'll just pop on and do something random just in case somebody happens to have.
I've thought about that too. I know. It's like All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and I look forward. We'll see you guys all again next week. Bye, everyone.
Yep. Good night, everybody.
Hear that? That's the sound of a patient whose health data is protected from a cyber attack. And that's the sound of a financial system that's digitally secured from bad actors. Right now, there's an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield that impacts what we do every day. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done to help protect the vital systems we rely on. Because if we don't, the alternative is unimaginable. Peraton.